Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to give you a thorough metagame and format breakdown in terms of what is the historic best of three, the best decks, what you can kind of anticipate. It is a metagame challenge this weekend, as well as the qualifier this month will be historic as well. So we have the best of one play-in the week of the 21st, I believe, and then the following week will be best three play-in and the qualifier itself. So historic will be impacted by Final Fantasy, but for the time being, especially with the metagame challenge this weekend, we'll be taking a look at the data ahead of that, so at least folks can practice. Format is heavily influenced by Modern Horizons, so it's going to take Modern Horizons power level to kind of shake things up overall. So we're getting the data from Untapped.gg, what you see on the screen. Tracks user win rates because the stats we're going to be looking at today. Speaking of Untapped, the folks there have given me 10 codes to give away for Untapped Premium. As we do in the past giveaways, the question, just drop a comment and I'll randomly select 10 winners. Will be what card from Final Fantasy are you most excited for to try out? In addition, the folks at Untapped, for those who don't win, if you're interested in doing it, they're doing 25% off their premium subscriptions. So if you're interested, the link for Untapped, all the details is in the video description. All these deck lists will also be posted and time-stamped as well. So jumping in, we're going to look Diamond and Mythic rank. Some folks, especially the more competitive ones, are already in Mythic. The folks who've gotten like #1 Mythic the last few months have done it in Historic. So we're going to be looking at Diamond and Mythic rank. Not a huge amount of diversity in terms of popularity of the day just coming in, but we'll cover a bunch of different decks here. I think I have like 10 plus decks. Format we need to look at. You have Sorin vampire decks with an alchemy card called Saint Elenda, which is just like a turbocharged Vein Ripper, does everything. So you have that. You have auras. You have energy decks. You have Eldrazi decks. You have a Devotion deck. You have a Jeskai Lotus combo deck, a Jeskai Lotus control, or Izzet Lotus combo deck. You have a Jeskai Lotus control deck. We have like blue-white tempo in here. We got a bunch of different things. So we're going to take a look there, and I'm going to guide you through, kind of explain what the decks do, how it kind of works, and stuff like that. So jumping in, we're going to look at 3,700 games for the last couple of days, and we're going to look 3 concurrent Sorin decks. That's not necessarily the same order in terms of win rate, but I want to show the different styles of the decks, so you can kind of see how they play out a bit different. For the most part, you're going to be seeing a Jund version of the deck, an Abzan version of the deck, and then you could see sometimes a Orzhov or an Esper version. The Abzan version is largely just a black-white version that's playing Malavant Rumble to help you dig into the combo, as well as Oath of Nissa, same idea, helps you dig into the combo. So you have kind of those elements. Kind of the core. So Sorin puts into play Saint Elenda. Saint Elenda is a 7 mana 4/7 lifelinker. Comes into play, you conjure. So basically, it gives you one of 4 options. There are all cards that gain you 4 life when they come into play. Lets you cast that spell for free. So it's like a 3/2 vampire that gains you 4 life. It's Faith's Feather. It's draw a card, gain 4 life. And it's destroy artifact or enchantment, gain 4 life. So pretty much addresses their biggest threat, artifact, enchantment, whatever it is. Then it makes Sarah's avatar token based on the amount of life you gain. So if you gain 4 life for the turn, you make a 4/4. So it just kind of takes over the game on its own. The other parts of the deck are similar to like the black-white scam decks in Modern. You have Overlord of the Baelmerk. Instead of Felia, you'll have dedicated Dollmaker. This exiles a permanent and creates a token copy of it instead. So you can kind of have strong lines, Overlord on 2, Blanket on 3. You also have Emperor of Bones. Some of these decks are self-milling into big Ulamog from Modern Horizons, so you can do the Ulamog Emperor of Bones combo that you annihilated out. This also serves as a backup plan because you're milling with Overlord, you're milling with Rumble, so it gives you another way to cheat into play Elenda. You have Trolls that help you hit your land drops that you can reanimate, a Vein Ripper, or Olivia is another vampire that can come in that then you can cheat out any of your big threats. Sometimes the green decks will play Calling Ritual in the sideboard. It's another way to deal with auras and some of the more powerful decks. Temporary Lockdown for the aggressive decks. You have Fragment Reality. This is kind of a pseudo Swords to Plowshare-esque thing. Instead of gaining life, it basically hits enchantments, artifacts, or creatures, and they pull a random card from their library with less CMC. So that's the main board. You have just discarded it. Haywire Might's been buffed. It's a 1/2 and gains 3 life in this format, but same effects. Cheap removal. Stone of Erich is for any of the sacrifice style decks. It exiles any of the Ajani piles, stuff like that. Surgical for combo hate, or just graveyard kind of key pieces. Thoughtseize for hand hate. Disruptor Flute in here deals kind of combo hate as well as like activated abilities. And then you have Temporary Lockdown. So playing Temporary Lockdowns instead of the Calling Rituals. And then Porous Important. Basically, it's an adventure card. Front half is just a creature exile. Back half, when you cast it, like the actual Porous Important part, you summon one of the 3 little pigs. The main value one in here is basically a pig that for 2 mana, you can activate it in exiles artifact or enchantment. But it's basically like a 2-for-1 removal threat type thing. We then go to the Jund version. So this one here is a little bit more all-in combo. So you have Lootings, you have Malevolent Rumbles. So you're trying to do the Sorin thing. You've assembled a team, which basically looks at a third of your library, and you get to pick 1 card, put it into your hand. So kind of a fixed demonic tutor. And then you're basically either trying to Sorin Alenda, or you're trying to self-mill over the Ulamog, use Emperor of Bones. You exile it, same turn, you could put it into play. It sees itself in exile, it gets the counters, it gets haste, so you can annihilate your opponent's entire board. There's also a card here, Jarsoul. So this has starting intensity, so think of it, so turn 1 it comes in, on the beginning of your combat, you choose a card in your graveyard with 1 CMC, you get to cast it for free, and then its intensity goes to 2. Next turn you can cast a 2-drop, and then you can do a 3-drop, 4-drop as it increases intensity. So kind of like a Snapcaster Mage-esque effect. This one's a little bit more all-in, so you can have very powerful lines with the Ulamog, but it's not as necessarily interactive per se. You're kind of this combo versus this combo type thing. With the Abzan version, you have kind of the Blink package. You can kind of play a more fair mid-range game. So Calling Ritual is really good against auras, energy, stuff like that. Toxic Deluge is a sweeper. A lot of these cards you'll see again. Stone of Erich, Pithing Needle for picking off like key activated abilities, Break Expectations in here, another Hand Hate, good against Luris piles, stuff like that, and then Haywire Might for hate pieces. Your opponent brings in Needle, stuff like that. Then lastly, we have the Esper version. So this one went from Huge Escos, 23 and 11. They came in at 141 Mythic. So the Esper version, we have similar effects. So we have Emperor of Bones, we have the Ulamogs, the Overlords, Psychic Frog in this one. You'll notice the 1 copy of Tamiyo in here. That's because if your opponent Fragment Reality is one of your 2-drops, it always hit the Tamiyo, so you always get something from there. And then the card here, it's an alchemy card. It's Diviner of Fates, very strong card. So Esper 2/3, when it enters you connive, so draw, discard. And then whenever you discard 1 or more cards, it pulls a random card from your library that shares the same type. So if you discard a creature, it pulls a random creature. So not only you kind of net out positive, where normally it's just a looting. In this case here, you get an extra card in your hand. With Psychic Frog, you can do it on your turn and their turn, and basically free discard fodder to Psychic Frog, and then set and curate your hand. Works really well with the land cyclers, because not only do you get the land, but you get another sorcery or creature. It's kind of in that sense. So you have that kind of Sorin combo. Cyborg, Toxic Deluge, Phantasmal Extraction. So if you're starting player, this is only costs 1, and it's basically just a discard effect that exiles. Juggernaut Peddler is a card that's frequently seen in a lot of the black-white versions. So basically, it's a 2/2 that comes into play. Opponent reveals their hand. It's kind of like Thoughtseize, but instead of the card just going away, it exiles, and they get a copy of Juggernaut to their hand. And then just a lot of the cards we've previously mentioned. Consigned to Memory, very good against the Eldrazi decks. Boros Auras. So this one here, it's Luris Companion. Luris is legal in this format. So you have 2 cards, Light Pause, as well as Core Spirit Dancer. Both take advantage of having auras. So Spirit Dancer draws you cards, gets bigger. Light Pause toolboxes. The very strong lines are Demonic Ruckus on 1, and then you play Light Pause, and they could just tutor Sheltered by Ghosts. You can kind of run away with the games like that. The main difference with a lot of the lists you'll see is just a decision of, are you playing Hushbringer main or are you playing Amped Raptor main? Hushbringer shuts off a lot of the common enter the battlefield effects. Very good against the Sorin decks because the one doesn't enter the battlefield effect. It's good against like mono green devotion. If you're playing against a heavy removal deck, stuff like that, Amped Raptor's just 2-for-1 value. Giver of Ruins for protection, Esper Sentinel for tax, and then just a whole bunch of various artifacts, enchantments kind of mixed into there. Graveyard Hate, cheap removal, protection, activated abilities, naming Sorin, and then Amped Raptor for the grindier matchups. We then have Izzet Lotus Field combo. So this is basically just Lotus Fields. You have Deserted Temple, which can tap and untap your Lotus Field. So this will basically let you net mana. You have Expedition Map that can help you find pieces. You have Consign and Stifle to both work with the Lotus Field, so you don't have to sack it, basically. These also incidentally work well against random triggered abilities later in the game from your opponent. You're basically going to draw, discard a bunch of cards, untap your lands. Pour over pages, hidden strings do that. Artist Talent lets you draw, discard, and loot, reduce the cost, similar with Ral. And then eventually you cast Breach and just kind of cycle over and over and over again, netting mana. You Wish, and then you Tendrils of Agony them, Grape Shot them, or just Jace after you draw your whole deck. You could also just mill them out with Tome Scour. Tome Scour also just works in terms of filling with your graveyard with Breach, so you have the requisite amount of cards. In terms of the sideboard, you have access to Fragment, cheap removal. Orange Chant is kind of a silent style effect, Time Walk in a way. Flood Maw deals with common hate pieces, High Noon, Dampening Spear, anything like that. And then Divine Purge is a really messed up sweeper. So 3 mana, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 3 or less. They perpetually get this card, costs 2 more, and they enter the battlefield tapped. So your opponent can play them from exile, but it just taxes the hell out of everything, makes them come into play tapped. So it's a really good sweeper against a lot of creature decks. Against Affinity, you hit their lands, which is really annoying as well for them. We then have 4-color Sam combos. So this one here, it's basically an infinite combo, Samwise Gamgee, Cauldron Familiar, and any sort of sack outlet, Bartholomew. Some of them are playing Cartel Aristocrat instead, but same idea, infinite sack or Goblin Bombardment. And then basically cat comes into play, creates a food token, you sack it, the cat comes back from the food token, creates a new food token, you do the loop. Note that Cauldron Familiar is nerfed in this format, still from its like a year and a half ago. It can't block. It's kind of silly. So you got a Johnny Bombardment package, Amped Raptor helps you find the combo, Birthing Ritual helps you dig into the combo. Unlucky Witness, you sack for value, so you could sack it to here and then get to play cards, so some card advantage. Goblin Trap Finder, kind of similar idea. When it dies, you seek a creature from your library and then it gets -1 cost, but you sack it at the end of the turn. But it's kind of another way to kind of tutor your creatures. Remorseful Cleric deals with graveyards. Coral Harpooner deals with flyers. Fragment Reality, cheap removal. Haywire Might for artifact enchantment hate. There's not a huge amount of flyers in the format. You can probably play like better cards with that. Stone of Arage for the opponent's deck. Abrupt Decay deals with a lot of the common hate pieces you would have. The format's not really based on flyers. This one seems a bit of an odd one to have in there. Temur Devotion. So mono green devotion, but it's got an infinite combo. So this one here, obviously, Nykthos deck, Kiora, Trailblazer, nets you mana, and then draws you cards similar to Kiora. Fanatic generates a huge amount of mana with Birds of Paradise and Utopia Sprawl. What this deck has as well is with Temur Battlecrier, your spells cost 1 less for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. So if you have enough 4 power creatures in play, you can cast Karn for free. Karn then gets where are you? Where's the bounce? Oh, they don't have Ancestral Statue here. So typically, the combo is... This one's just doing a value play then. Typically, it's a combo where you have these with Karn, you have Ancestral Statue, as well as Aetherflux Reservoir. You keep casting Statue, bounce it over and over and over again to your hand. Then you eventually bounce Karn and go get your Aetherflux Reservoir. Alternatively, you can also just draw into the second Karn. But this one's kind of playing value play. So just a bunch of just Karn targets, Portal as a sack, blow up things. You build a big enough board, you could just get haste for the turn, kill your opponent, Worm Coils, big body with lifelink, take over their turn, tax them, Contagion Engine deals with like energy, go wide decks, blow up things. Like you're definitely better off playing the statue. It's just an instant win con in that case, and it doesn't take up too many spots. But just basically no sideboarding, you have the Karn package in here. Izzet Wizards. So deck's kind of fallen off a little. It can struggle against the Sorin decks. Like this is the deck I would play because I like playing this. It actually incidentally got hit by a recent nerf. So there's the Chorus package that was very, very powerful in Alchemy. And they recently nerfed this Ribald Shanty. It costs 2 now. But it's similar to the Jar Soul where it has starting intensity, but they soup up all your cards. So Ribald Shanty deals 2 damage the first time. If you're starting intensity, say 4 at that point, deals 4. So it scales, similar with Hymn to Ages, where it basically at times could be like 2 mana, draw 5 at instant speed. The big card this deck got was Swiftspear's Teaching. Basically how it reads is 1 mana cantrip that the next creature you cast gets prowess and haste, like imprinted on it. So you can haste out Dreadhorde Arcanist and give it prowess. Plays really nice. Symmetry Sage is buffed. It's a 3 toughness instead of 2, gives +3 power. But basically you're playing a Wizard's Shell with Quarry Steel, your Flame of an Orb, Wizard's Lightning, your Slick Shot Show-Offs kind of in there. Jingot the Companion, Sweepers for the aggressive decks, or Artifact decks, Pyros in here, Test Talents for kind of combo decks, Graveyard Hate, Cheap Disruption, Shove Asides basically, they won't give us Lightning Bolt, but it's basically a 1 mana 3 damage spell that lets you play it at instant speed if you aren't the starting player, and then Needle for Karn. What you may want to look at is something like Into the Floodmaw, stuff like that can help as well against like Sorin decks. We have Jeskai Lotus Field. So this is kind of a mid-rangey control deck. So this deck here is using Strict Proctor and then the Stifle style effects with the combination of Lotus Field to stop the trigger from going off. Then you can copy it with a Thespian Stage. So it's not all in on the Thespian Stage one, but this one here is High Noon, which locks out some decks. Proctor shuts off a lot of common ETBs. Flage works nice with Strict Proctor because you don't have to escape it, it just stays in play. Tajik is a very strong card. So it's a 4 mana 1/1, indestructible. And then at the beginning of your combat, you put a counter on it, and then it brings into play a random Boros creature. So it goes 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop, 5 drop, up to the 5 mana Aurelia. So Sticky Thread, indestructible, that pumps out a bunch of damage. You have Null Drifter that also works with the Proctor since it doesn't sack off Evoke. Teferi plays nicely, obviously, with Lotus Field. So it's like a Jeskai control tempo style deck. Oranchant can Time Walk, and it's like a Silence. Activated abilities, sack decks, combo hate, cheap count, like non-counterable with Veto, Hushbringer for more ETB hate, along with Torpor Orb, Farewell's Catch-All, Exile, and then Test Talent for combo decks. Simic Eldrazi. So you have a ramp package in here. So this one here is on, you have poured in a Calamity in here. So basically you can pump a bunch of mana into it. If it's, I think, greater than 5, you get to cast a card from free. So it's another mana sink. This one's on World Breaker. Some of the lists will play upwards of 4 Ugins. But basically the deck is looking to kind of set up your draw. Ugin's Labyrinth as a way. You know what? I'm going to post a different list, because this one's not as refined as it needs to be. This one's a little odd. There's a better version of the deck, but basically it's an Eldrazi ramp deck, similar to kind of the modern ones. Ugin's Labyrinth, Sowing Mycospawn, Malavin Rumble, Kozilek's Command, generate a whole bunch of mana. This ups you tutor key lands. Like this version here is missing a lot of lands, like in terms of the wish board. It's also only on 18 lands, which is very wrong in terms of the count of this deck. But I will post a better list. Sorry, I thought this one was the stock list when I pulled it up. There's also a mono blue version of the list. So this one's from Dane Blast, 41 and 20 into 183 Mythic. So similar concepts, but this one is using Tamiyo meets the story circle. So you can discard any number of cards, you investigate twice for each card discarded, and then basically with the Archway of Innovation, you can use those artifacts to basically improvise. So the next spell you cast as improvise, so you can use your artifacts to cast it, Ordant, or any of your big Eldrazi. So it's a different way of kind of cheating it out with that. And then this is just like a Chalice lock for some of the cheaper decks. Take over your opponent's turn in the mirror, blow up stuff. Ugin's Binding is really good against like the cheaper decks. It's basically like Cyclonic Rift. You can evoke this, and then it triggers this from your graveyard. Torpor Orb for graveyard hate. Or sorry, for ETB hate, combo hate, sack hate. Cheap creatures, Lurrus Piles, Pithing Needle for activated abilities, and Consign for the mirror. So then we have Free Your Mind. They are 33 and 3 into 13 Mythic with blue-white tempo. So this deck here is using the combination of High Noon with kind of counter spells, so they only get one per turn. You tempo them that way. You have Spell Queller. Normally Spell Queller's got downside. If your opponent kills it, they get to cast a spell, but with High Noon, it can lock them out from being able to cast a second spell. Even Interrupter, similar idea, kind of just a bunch of tempo-esque counter spells that aren't real counters, slowing them down. You have Talion's Throne Guard, so you can either return a permanent in play or a spell on the stack, and then you can bargain it, and the spell costs 2 more. This is just another tempo element. So you're just kind of like answering their threats on the stack, and then killing them with flyers. You have Jace the Mind Sculptor in here, Divine Purge as a sweeper, Rift, just a bunch of cheap counters and bounce. And you have another card called Kalim, Dijin Emperor. There's a lot of text on this card, but basically it cycles for 2. When you cycle it, you get to create 2 copies of it into your library in random order. And then if you have 3 of them in your graveyard, you can exile all 3 and basically free cast a copy of it. And it's a 5/6 flyer. So this gets around the High Noon lock because cycling is an activate. So you have that. Graveyard, Timeless Dragon, way you can plane cycle and then eternalize it from the graveyard. This is another way to get around the High Noon lock. Activated abilities, you have the Stifle through Obstructionist, more sweepers for the aggressive decks. Clarion Conquer works nicely against mono green, against Sorin decks, anything with activated abilities. You have the Containment Priest, anything cheating into play, again, good for Sorin. Graveyard Hate, and then Consign for the Eldrazi decks. And then lastly, we have Energy. So this one here, give me one sec, because it still has my early access profile linked. All right, so this one went 27 and 9 from Cam's KOs, up to 46 Mythic. So a couple things in this format. A couple of the cards in Energy have been nerfed. Galvanic Discharge only makes 2 energy instead of 3. Guide of Souls requires 4 energy instead of 3 to use its ability. And Osselet's Pride costs 2 mana instead of 1. But it's basically your bombardment pile. You have Voice of Victory that synergizes with bombardment, with a Johnny, all those effects. You also have Stadium Headliner, another way to make multiple bodies that you can sack, and it's a creature that can itself be used as pseudo removal. Some Esper Sentinels in here. We don't have Regavan, we don't have Blood Moon, cards you sometimes see in the modern version. Lurrus is legal though. Sun Cleanser for the mirror, Get Lost, kind of flexible removal. Sorin decks, you have Containment Priest, and a bunch of cards we've mentioned previously. That is a lot of talking. That is it for the week. Hopefully you find a deck that works for you. If you have questions, drop them in the comment. Happy to chat about it. But yeah, good luck to play. I'm going to try to play some this weekend as well. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.